And then remember to stay slightly to your left a little bit too. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a little after 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, and it's, in my opinion, the perfect time to sit down and have a cup of Joe. One day, I'll have a cup of Joe in my hand, too, and I can share it with y'all. We're in a difficult time in the world right now. We're in a great time in the world, too, for some. But we still live in a world where people are locked up for the cannabis plant. And I say that in no uncertain terms. I don't care if you're locked up because you were selling it or growing it or making something with it, transporting it, selling it, whatever. I don't care. There's not another situation in the world where a plant is a crime. It doesn't make sense for a plant to be a crime. But we let it happen. We talk about that many times. I'm not going to go on the same tirade as always. We live in a world where people are still locked up today for this plant. One of the people that are locked up is a man by the name of Craig Cecil. And we've been supporting him avidly, as well as every other plant prisoner, best as we could. And, we're dealing with some serious shit right now regarding Craig. Would you please respond and say I'm on the radio show right now? Thank you for interrupting me. Love it, folks. I've been doing this radio show for 7 years now, or 6 years. And yet every single time somebody I know has to call at this time. Anyways, at this moment, I don't have a screener. I'm hoping to have one soon. I've got a bunch of calls on the line, and I'm hoping to be able to get to you all that are on the line without doing a wild card. I've been asked to do a 10-minute video, and I'm pretty sure I can pull it off in about 5, talking about who I am, and it's supposed to be included in some sort of a show or something. Anyways, I figured the best way to do that was just to do it on the air, and that way they can cut it out of this video, and we'll do it in the beginning. If by the time I'm finished with this, we don't have a screener, I'll do some wild card screening, and we'll just get to listen to it all live. And explore the joys of an all-volunteer organization. Love my organization. I love everybody that's involved in it. It's just one of the shortcomings when you don't have a budget because you got a bunch of people that care enough to just get out there and help, and no big company, not a legal cannabis company for God's sake, certainly has offered to help the work we're doing to fight for, advocate for people's civil rights, including the right to choose, catch that phrase, the right to choose to medicate ourselves with a plant that grows naturally on this planet without any help from anybody. We choose to do that because we're given by our Creator the inalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if we pursue our happiness while we're growing a plant, it seems to make sense. There's no conflict with anybody else's rights. So that's where we get our right to do this, straight up. My name is Joe Grumbine, and I've been doing this show now for many years, and or some version of it. And here, do that again, because there's another one. Let's just make sure that, and tell him I sent the pricing over already. Check his email. Anyways, kind of just love it. Thoughtfulness is a wonderful thing. You know, when we go through life, realizing that we're part of a bigger picture, that we're part of a picture that is bigger than our own world, that we influence and affect everybody around us at all times. That's one thing about being locked up, teaches you real quickly, is that everything you do affects everybody else around you, and that you need to learn to respect other people's spaces and other people's reality, because it'll affect you awful quick if you don't. And here on the other side of things, a lot of people walk around blindly just doing what they're going to do and don't seem to consider the fact that what we do affects everybody around us. But there's actions, reactions, consequences, and all that fun stuff that happen regardless of our awareness of it. Anyways, again, my name is Joe Grumbine, and I became aware of the cannabis plant back in, about 1979. I think I tried it for the first time that year. I wasn't very old, as you might imagine, but it was one of those things that I was always the youngest in the people I hung out with. So I had some friends that were older than I, and I can still remember, I might have been in 7th grade or 8th grade, something like that. And a buddy of mine had a plant growing. And I remember, didn't know much about what pot was, but my buddy had harvested a bud. And I remember him taking it and chopping it up onto a paper plate, put it in a microwave to dry it. And then he rolled up a joint, and I took a couple of hits. First time I ever smoked pot. And it didn't do much for me. I didn't find it good or bad or sideways. It was an interesting experience. My dad smoked a pipe, tobacco pipe, and I puffed on that a few times before. It wasn't of much consequence. And then a couple of years later, when I was in high school, I again became acquainted with it and come to like it quite a bit. And, you know, back in those days, most of the pot had seeds in it. And I can remember in 1982, we had gotten a hold of some tie stick, and in that tie stick were some seeds. And I planted those seeds in a little pot that I stuck in a greenhouse that my dad had built. And it grew. And I went out there every day and took care of this little plant and thought it was interesting. It connected with me. Oh, there we go. We got a screener. Hey, hopefully this will all be great. Thank you, Becca. Becca is right here. Anyways, so that all being said, that plant turned out to be a male. My dad ended up finding it and killing it, and I had grown several others, and just come to like it. Well, come about 1985 or so, I met a guy who had some really good pot. Now I'm out of high school, and I remember sitting at my friend's house and pass a joint around. And I got so high, I got stuck on that couch, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Mm-hmm. I was really never had anything like that before. And we became friends. And, I'm one of these guys who's always tried to surround myself with people smarter than me and more experienced, and, so I could learn from them without having to do everything they did. And it's this guy ended up being the one who grew that pot. And it was really great because he taught me how to grow it. And I was a guy who had integrity and did what I said, which is a very unusual trait in this world, as you may come to find out. And we became partners, and meaning we grew pot together. And I put together a little indoor grow, and we started some things. He taught me how to clone, and that was kind of cool. And I was already making other clones of other kinds of plants. I didn't even know you could clone cannabis plant. And anyways, we started growing clandestine on mountainsides, and it was a whole adventure experience. So now I'm in my 20s, and I have more pot than I can smoke, which was really kind of cool. It was a good place to be in my world anyways, and had all kinds of extra trim and all this good stuff. At the same time, I started studying medicinal herbs. I have a lung condition that I was born with, and have dealt with all kinds of treatments, Western medical treatments, including allergy shots and tests and medicines of every kind. My dad was a surgeon, so I had good medical care, giant air quotes on that. And I just hated the way they made me feel. I hated the experience. I never liked going to doctors. I didn't like being poked, and I certainly didn't like needles stuck in me. So I said, you know what, one day I'm going to just see if there's any other alternatives. Meanwhile, I'm using cannabis as a recreational experience and loving it. Smoke pot every day for a long time. Still do, actually, for the most part. And I came upon, after a year or two of exploring some how to make some medicinal herbal remedies and growing medicinal herbs, I came upon one book that had a liniment recipe, and it involved soaking cannabis in alcohol and creating a tincture. And I had already been making other types of tincture, and I had gone to Mexico and gotten this really good alcohol, and it was called Puro de Caña, and it was a 98% cane alcohol, and it was a great tincturing alcohol because it didn't leave anything behind, and it was stronger the alcohol, the better the extraction. And again, this is, I believe, in 1989. So, we didn't even know there was an endocannabinoid system at that point. We certainly didn't know there were CBD, CBG, CBC, or any of the other phytocompounds that we now know about. We didn't know about any of them. And I made this tincture, and of course I made it very different than we do today, but it worked. Turned into this dark green liquid, and went to a friend of mine and said, hey, I'm doing this thing. What do you think about it? He says, hey, did you try drinking it? I didn't think about that. So I took a slug, and it tasted horrible, but we added a little bit of sugar to it, and it turned around tasting really good. Not really good. It still tasted like hell, but it worked. And I came to realize that this stuff is amazing. Fast forward a little bit, I started making a whole line of liqueurs, and I'm a crazy individual who, when I get inspired by something, I'll take it to the ends of the earth. And I used to go all over the place to every kind of Asian store, Indian store, Mexican store, you name it, any ethnic place, and I'd find flavors, different fruits and spices and things to make different, unique flavors of this liqueurs. Come to find a lady who is an aunt of a roommate who was going through chemotherapy and had cancer and was suffering. And, I became kind of known as a guy who was tinkering with plants and dabbling with this and that. And he asked me, hey, do you have anything for her? And I said, well, I don't know. I got this stuff that I've been making, and I heard it can be helpful, but I don't know. I says, let's try it, and gave her a little jar of it, and came back a couple of months later hearing that it made a giant difference in our world. And it woke me up. And that was kind of the first little epiphany that happened. So meanwhile, I began breeding and growing and, doing my whole thing, and got married, raised a family, and all this other fun stuff in the midst of it all. And we're going to fast forward all the way to 2006. The economy went to shit. And I was in real estate at that time. And of course, that's where the market went to hell. And between then and now, I had been teaching classes on organic gardening and herbal treatments and techniques, and building sort of a body of work, and began, using this tincture in all kinds of different ways. But again, the economy went to hell, and a partner and I said, California had passed a law back in 1996, and it was now almost 10 years later. And, there was all kinds of cases, mostly federal cases, and the state seemed to be having some things sort of figured out. We went to a bunch of attorneys and decided we're going to take a chance. We found a place that didn't have a ban on it in Garden Grove, California. And we found a landlord who was willing to rent to us. And, we bootstrapped this thing. We built out the rooms, and we took this old building that used to be a massage parlor of all places. So it had really strange setup with all these little rooms in it. But we built the thing out and framed it and drywalled it and hung doors, and one by one met people who were in the business and come to learn. Please, I am on the radio right now. Anyways, that all being said, I just love being derailed. It's just amazing. Just love it. We opened up this dispensary, and our model with this was to service true medicinal needs. We figured if we were acting in a way that was in the spirit of California law, we'd have the best chance at succeeding. And so I took my information that I had gathered over the years and the knowledge that I'd acquired, and started working with all the people that came in. And I was surprised. I thought to myself when we began this venture that hell, if 10% of the people were actually there for legitimate medical benefit, it would be of value. It would really have some substance. And I'd say it's worth it. Subsequently, I learned that all cannabis use is medicinal value. Even recreational is medicinal. The whole act of relaxing and recreation is medicine. Why do we all want to go on vacation? Because it's healing. Why do we all look for something to take the edge off? Because the edge is there. All of these things, stress in life is a scourge. It's an antagonist. It's a thing that causes us disease. And so, frankly, anything that removes that without causing us additional harm is medicine. And I come to understand that as I'm moving along. But trying to sort of fast forward through this, but give a sense of who I am, we come to find a number of these folks, and I even got an oncologist that started referring patients to our dispensary, and people started coming in specifically to find relief and to be healed, and it was really fulfilling. And I would spend way too much time with our clients, and my partner and I went around and around over it. And I would want to give stuff away and just help people. And it was, well, it's a business and it was this constant battle. Anyways, one day we were still building this thing out. We hadn't been that far into it, and we hadn't gotten a good security system yet. So one of the managers every day would take the entire quantity of the medicine home for safekeeping every day. And as we were still bootstrapping ourselves along. So it was my turn one night, and it was in December. I believe it was December 9th, 2007. And I got pulled over. Now, I got pulled over, and I had a little pickup truck, a little Toyota pickup truck that was literally full of pot. And I had duffel bags full of packaged material, and I had edibles, and I had clones in my front seat. I had pot, lots of pot. There was no denying what I had. I get pulled over and I was like, oh crap, but I'm thinking to myself, hey, I'm legitimate in California. It's a local sheriff that's pulling me over. Yeah, you don't know what to think. Anyways, he pulls me over. He's blown away, doesn't know what to think. I show him the paperwork I had. He says, well, you're not in Riverside. You're not in Orange County anymore. You're in Riverside. I was like, yeah. And still, I should be, it's a state law. Anyways, that was my first experience being locked up. So they hauled me away. And of course, everybody in the local police station where they first got me to, it's smelling all my pot. And of course, all the comments and the wisecracks and, our law enforcement serving and protecting us all, took full advantage of all of that. And I became the joke of the room, and then they hauled me off to county, and I was the kingpin. I was the guy that they got this big bust. I made the news and everything. It was great. And while I'm sitting in a holding cell, so the thing with getting locked up is they take a long time processing you into general population. And there's this whole process, they intake you and they do this and they do that. And they move you from one holding cell to the next. And while I was in there, it was the first time I'd ever been locked up, really. And sitting in this concrete holding cell, and it was probably, about 8 foot by 10 foot maybe, had a little, combination toilet sink in there. And I'm all by myself, and I'm looking around at these walls and these metal bars. And I was like, holy shit. How did this happen? And I'm thinking to myself, what did I do that got me here? You think to yourself, I made a series of choices. And I kept thinking, I didn't cause harm to anybody. I did everything I could to follow our laws. This isn't a federal bust. What the hell? How is it that I'm here? And some little switch snapped inside of me. And I says, damn, this isn't right. Something's not right. I got to do something about it. And I didn't really think much more about it at the time because I was busy trying to get the hell out of here. And, a day or so later, I did get out of there, and thus began my journey. Quickly, I said, I better do something about this. And I didn't have any money to go get an attorney at the time. So I started asking around, there's all these activist groups, and I went to them. We all know them by name, but I'm not going to get into it. But I called them all. Everyone that I could find. I went to the yellow pages. I went to everywhere. And we had even supported some of them as a dispensary. And guess what? None of them knew anything. None of them knew what to do. None of them knew how to help. And I was like, holy crap, this is horrible. So one moment I went to one of these organizations and pled my case. And there was an attorney there. He heard my story and said, let's talk. Anyways, he researched me. I researched him. He was a good attorney. And he took me on as kind of a charity case. He says, I'll do your case for X amount. I says, all right, well, can you take payments? Because that's all I can do. He agreed. And we went down and began this process. Well, I asked him, I said, what do I need to do to beat this case? And he says, you know what you need to do? You need to fight like it's your own freedom that matters. And I says, okay, I can do that. I will do that. And he began to give me things to do. And one of the things to do was gather people that will support you. He said, community support's important. Get people that'll write a letter for you. Get people that'll show up to court with you. Get people that will testify for you. And I says, okay, and I'll do that. I made that my life's mission. And from that point forward, I began to speak anywhere I could. I'm not a public speaker, or at least I wasn't. And yet this was important. Didn't even know what I was up against. Come to find out, they were trying to hit me at 7 years for the first case. And I didn't think that was acceptable. I went, again, you come to get experience in the courtroom pretty quickly. While I was waiting in court for one of my appearances, I met another guy who also had my attorney and couldn't afford him. And we began talking, and he had a case that was a backyard grow, not a very interesting or important case by today's standards, but back 10 years ago, it was, kind of significant. And I said, well, hell's bells, this isn't cool. And then I come to meet another guy who had a federal case. And we began talking, and we said, well, what can we do? We're both broke. We don't have the money for a lawyer. Let's get together and do a fundraiser. Well, I've never done a fundraiser before. I didn't know anything about it, but I said, what the hell? Let's make this happen. And I reached out and I says, who's here with me? Who will help? And people started raising their hand. And I says, great, let's get together and figure this out. I had never done anything like this before. There was no GoFundMe. There was no Facebook fundraisers. There was nobody that was willing to help. So we set out to do it. I have a piece of property that we could have used and started asking, hey, who will help me? Who will help me? And we, one by one, we got somebody here. Next thing we know, we had bands that were willing to play for free. We had people that were willing to speak. We started slotting out booths and raising a little bit of money. We called it the Freedom Fighters Fundraiser, and we put together a T-shirt and we put together an event out of nothing. And dozens of us volunteered, and we worked hard. We put this event on, and in my opinion, it went exceptionally great. Everything we did except raise money out of this entire event that lasted an entire day. And I think there was 4 or 5 bands that played, and there was food, and there was everything. It was a great event. And I think we raised a total of about $1,100 or $1,200. Well, guess what? Between 2 defendants that we were raising that money for, it wasn't enough to do anything. So we had gathered together with all the volunteers, and there was about 30 of us, and we sat down for it was a good solid day. I think it was a 9-hour session in my big patio at the time, and we sat down and said, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with this money that we got? Because it's not enough to help either of our legal bills. And we sat there and we said, well, what the hell? What are we doing this for? What's the point? We said, well, the point is people are getting locked up for pot. That's not cool. And we said, well, why are they getting locked up for pot? Well, because it's illegal. It's been prohibited. Well, why is it prohibited? Well, because of a bunch of lies and a bunch of misinformation, a bunch of greedy motherfuckers who decided that they wanted what they wanted more than what we wanted. And they got their way. They got it to be illegal. And we put up with it. And we didn't stop it. And we were bamboozled into saying, well, it's a dangerous thing. It's going to cause everybody to go crazy and go raping all the white women.
What about the children?
And what about the children and all this other fun stuff? So meanwhile, we said, well, what's going to fix it? What's going to fix this prohibition problem? We said, well, if the problem is lies and misinformation, and the problem isn't the problem, so to speak, then maybe the truth will be the answer. And maybe supporting those people that are battling for their freedoms and other such things, maybe supporting them would be the answer. So we began the rough draft of what ultimately became the human solution. Ultimately, I went to court. We had our first court support. We created this solidarity ribbon, this little green ribbon with the red cross on it. The purpose of that was so that we could walk into a courtroom together as a group without saying anything, without having a shirt that said, I love pot, without doing anything that would piss people off, and without being militant like an armband that we had originally done, without anything that would cause conflict. We were here to show solidarity, to show that we're here together for something good. And we showed up in my preliminary hearing with the very first solidarity ribbons that was ever seen in court. And we watched it impact when we came in. There was maybe a dozen of us, and the courtroom wasn't very big. And we watched as every person on the other side of the bar, bailiffs, cops, witnesses, the judge himself, the prosecutor, they all looked at us, and they were looking at us intently, like, what the hell are these people here for? Because they're not used to seeing people in support of a defendant. It doesn't happen very often. Ultimately, fast forward, I went to many court appearances. They were not budging all the way down to the very end. And I went through 4 or 5 prosecutors, and finally I got a prosecutor who said, well, what is your case? And we dropped a truckload of discovery on them, and trial readiness hearing, they offered me the first deal, which was 7 years in prison. I said, well, that's unacceptable. Let's see what's going to happen. My attorney went in a closed room session with the judge and the prosecutor, and the judge ultimately dismissed my case. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Best moment of my life. Not only did he dismiss my case, but he issued an order that stated in the order that I was found to be compliant with all California law, and that all my property was to be returned, including the money that was seized and the pot that was seized. And I thought, wow, that's just unbelievable. Come to find out that cops don't want to give back stuff that they take, and it took me months and threatened of lawsuits. But at one day, finally, I got the pot back. Well, it's a year old by now, not so good, but I had it all. It was in evidence bags, and it was the greatest feeling ever. Now, I had this order issued by a judge in California Superior Court stating that I was found to be legal. I was found to be compliant of all California laws. And I took a copy of that and I pinned it up in the dispensary as I was still working. A few weeks later, I was raided and began a nightmare. And that piece of paper disappeared, never to be found again.
Wow.
We began this battle in the court of Long Beach, and it's a long and arduous battle. And ultimately, I turned my case into my full-time job. And I advocated everywhere I could, every chance I could. And every time, the Human Solution grew. And it was a local organization at the time. And, we didn't have any reach outside of where it was at Southern California, but we had several hundred people now that were engaged, that were came out of other groups, and we became our own group. And come time for my trial, we had a pretty impressive showing, and ultimately, in an 18-day trial, we had a protest out in front of that courthouse every single day. And it didn't happen easily, and it didn't happen because I was just lucky. It happened because it was my life's work. It was the thing I did every day. And I coerced, I begged, I helped, I did everything I could to help other people. And I got people to show up one way or another, and they did show up. And it's in no small part because they showed up that I'm a free man today. Ultimately, we now have a 501c3 federally recognized nonprofit. We have been doing court support and prison outreach now for almost 10 years. In fact, coming up in a month or so will be our 10th actual anniversary of the Human Solution being an organization. And about almost 5 years ago, we got our 501c3. And we've been in courtrooms all over the country and in other countries, been in Great Britain, we've been in Canada, and I believe Australia, New Zealand, and our message is the same. We have a right bestowed upon us by our Creator to possess, cultivate, and distribute, and whatever we want to do with this cannabis plant, because it's a plant and it doesn't cause harm to anybody, especially other people. And we don't see any reason why we can't do that except for a law. That's a bad law. Historically, there have been bad laws all the way from the beginning of time since first laws have happened. And guess what? Those laws should be broken, and this is one of those laws. So we teach about jury nullification. We teach about the importance of community support. We show up and help people. And when somebody is locked up, we do what we can to help them. And, it's a difficult thing. We're an all-volunteer organization, and people come and go. People claim they're going to do stuff and they don't. They claim they're not going to do stuff and they do. It's a mess. But meanwhile, there's enough of us that care enough that we're carrying forward, moving this thing forward. And there's a guy that calls into the show every week, and his name's Craig Cecil, but he hasn't been calling in for the last 4 or 5 weeks. And it's because, as far as we know, he's still locked up in the hole in the solitary housing unit. And it's disturbing and troubling. And we've done letter writing campaigns, and we've done press releases, and we're reaching out to come up with a plan to do more. And we've got a man on the line right now that we're going to go to our first guest. His name is Paul Free. He's a man that was locked up for a very long time. And he's a person that we, as an organization, have supported when he was locked up. And now he's free. So I haven't had a chance to talk to Paul since he's free. But there was a moment a few years back where I was trying to find somebody that would help his case, and went through a hassle trying to find somebody that I never did get a hold of. But hopefully, we'll hear a little bit more. But Paul's got some insight. He's been inside a federal prison for a long time, and we're hoping to get his counsel on what's the best way. How can we help him? How can we help Craig in a way that won't cause him harm? And without any further ado, ex-POW Paul Free. Paul, welcome to the show. How are you doing today? Well, I got asked to give an intro, and of course, I thought I could do it in 10 minutes. Of course, it took a little longer than that, but I get a rambling, and you know how it is. You've got a story to tell, you start telling it.
Yeah. Well, we spoke many years ago. You were having a Thanksgiving dinner somewhere, and I called and talked to you and a bunch of other people.
You're absolutely correct. In fact, that was the Thanksgiving that many of our members met many of you folks that were behind bars at the time.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Tomorrow is my last day in federal custody.
Woo! All right. That's fantastic.
After 25 years, 2 months, and 19 days, at 7:15 Friday morning or thereabouts, they're going to cut the GPS tether off my leg. I'm going to walk out a completely free man with no probation, no parole, nothing.
Woo!
Awesome.
Free like my last name.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is something to celebrate. Something to celebrate.
Yep. And I'm going to get a car. My brothers can help me get a car. I'm going to drive from here to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to stand in front of the White House in the exact same spot where some people stood holding my poster, the Free Paul Free poster, a few years ago. I'm going to stand in that same spot and have my picture taken. I'm going to have a T-shirt that says Free John Knock and all the pot prisoners.
Excellent.
Yay!
Excellent.
I'm going to go to the Capitol building. I'm going to walk in and see my representatives and my members of Congress and say, hey, what the hell are you people doing?
That is fantastic.
I'm not going to stop till you don't stop till I'm either dead or everybody is out of prison. Hopefully the latter.
Well, we're in the beginning stages of organizing a walk across America that's going to begin next June and start in California and end in Washington, D.C. And I would certainly love. We're doing it. We're in the beginning stages of organizing it, but we've got committees already putting it together. We've got some initial sponsorship, and we got a plan. So we will be marching across the country, and we would absolutely love it if you could be there with us.
I will be there. I've got a bicycle I've been riding since I got out May 1st. I got to the halfway house.
Right.
And I had to stay there a couple months. But I couldn't find anybody who would rent me, even though I offered to pay 4 months in advance. It seems that whenever they heard my name, they Googled it and didn't call me back. But anyway, I finally got a place. I've been here a little over a month, my own little place, and it's just absolutely wonderful. My cooking, I'm not a good cook, but God darn, my stuff is good.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm enjoying life.
That is fantastic. It's so great to hear. We've been supporting POWs now for a long time, and one by one, we're watching them get free and spending some time with them. Some of them are sticking around helping. Others are just getting back to their lives. And anything's okay for somebody who's suffered that way. I'm always grateful when one of you guys is willing to come in and help, because you have a voice that's unique. You've experienced things that so many people haven't. You have a story to tell that's powerful, and it tells a different story from what so many people think. We live in a world now where there's people making millions of dollars selling pot on a street corner in a building where the same people got arrested and haven't seen the light of day for decades. So it's a mess.
I'm in Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm in Michigan, and what I did is completely legal here.
Right.
I still got the tether on, but in one more day, that tether's coming off, and I'm going to be gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Before I forget, I want to tell you something. I hope you realize that those of us locked up really, really appreciate what all of you people are doing for us. And it's in your heart to help people like you and Seth Wilson and Amy Polar and Beth Curtis. And, there's so many. I could go on forever. But I just want you all to know that we appreciate your effort.
Well, it's all about just fixing the world. The world's all broken, and we're just trying to fix it. And I had a taste of being locked up, and that was enough for me. I said, this is not okay. So I got a question for you, Paul. We've been working and trying to help out Craig Cecil for a long time. And he got locked up in the solitary housing unit as a result of a guard that smacked him down, and he complained. And next thing you know, we haven't heard from him in about almost 5 weeks. What do you think would be the best thing that we could do as an organization, or just as people that care, to affect some change for him?
Well, first, I'd find out for sure where he's at. Have you gone on the internet, gone to boc.gov?
Yeah, he's written some letters to us. We've gotten some letters from him, sort of explaining the situation. So, yeah. So we have it from him.
He's in it too.
Yeah, we have it from him.
Sure. Well,
yeah.
Well, you got to be careful when you're locked up in these federal prisons, because they can do some just outrageously stupid and mean and vicious things and get away with it. They cover their ass with paperwork, and you're not going to beat them unless you've got somebody that can film what they do and get the film out. But that's near impossible. But in his situation, in the old days, if you had a problem with a cop, you went in a room with no camera and you whooped each other, and you were good friends after that, or as close to be. But nowadays it's a lot different. They'll come in 3-4 deep and beat the hell out of you, and there's not a thing you can do. If you raise your voice and tell people about it, then they'll find something else to do to you. They put you on what's called diesel therapy at a minimum. That's where they put you on a bus leaking diesel fuels in all day long. They drop you all over the country for a day and put you in some old nasty county jail for night, pick you up at 3 o'clock next morning, do it all over again and again and again and again. But you just got to learn to choose your battles.
Right.
And sometimes you just got to let stuff go until you can get out and then raise your voice. I had to hold a lot of stuff in, and I still am, because I'm still in the custody of Bureau of Prisons right now.
Right.
And but Friday morning, that's going to change, and I'm going to be able to do things. Help people. But anyway, back to Craig. I would just sit tight.
Okay.
I wouldn't write letters or anything, because if you write letters to the warden or people above him, they're going to ask the prison what happened, and they're going to show them some paperwork that justifies what they did and why he's where he is.
Right.
And so it's not going to help you or him. I just sit and wait till he gets out and let him figure out that whatever he did, maybe he shouldn't do it anymore.
Got it. Well, the way we understand, he's a diabetic, and we've gone through, we've been supporting him for years, and they've given him grief cutting off medicine and his diet, and how they are in there with food.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple of times, we've raised a stink on his behalf, and it seemed like it helped. It seemed like we got the desired effect. But this time, they had something where they denied him access to the law library because he was a diabetic, and he was trying to figure out what's up with that, because that's not a thing. It's not a BOP policy, and apparently, a guard came up and cold cocked him, and knocked him out, and he went to file a complaint, and that's when all this stuff happened. And they didn't like the fact that he was speaking up on his own behalf.
And they took his papers.
Well, that'll teach him.
Yeah, he had a bunch of. Go ahead. Sorry.
I question whether or not he was denied the library privileges because of his diabetes. Now, I did 23 years in the U.S. penitentiary, and I saw a lot of men in there who were diabetic and who were in wheelchairs. Some of them had missing legs, all sorts of diseases and problems. But that's a new one to me, and I don't think it's an official policy, but
Yeah, I don't think it is either. I think they were using it as an excuse.
He did something to cause that guard to knock him out. Well, maybe he didn't deserve it. Probably didn't. But it happened, and it's best to forget about it and go on with your life and get out and be back in the population where he can do things for himself.
Right. Well, that's good advice. And again, I'd rather, we speculate from out here when we haven't, done that kind of time and spent the experience that you have. And that's why I wanted specifically to ask you, because you do have that experience and it's a different point of view. And it's more in line with where his point of view is, because he's experiencing the same thing. I think he's been in there for 18 years. And, we just want to see him get out safe. That's all.
Listen, if he's being denied his insulin or whatever he's taking, then that's a good thing for you people to get involved, for all of us to get involved, write letters, make phone calls, things like that. But being locked up in the shoe and there was a fight involved where he was knocked out, I don't know if it's really worth it. Could he cause more harm than good?
Got it.
Like I said, if he's being denied his medication, get on the line or call the warden.
Right.
Call the warden's warden.
Got it.
One more thing before I forget.
Sure.
You mentioned earlier that you had a piece of paper from the judge saying when you were released that you were complying with California law, and that paper disappeared.
Yeah.
I was wondering, did you ever go on the court's website, go to the docket, and see if you could find that paper and print it out?
So many things have happened so quickly at the time. I never did, but I still could. I still want to keep that piece of paper because it was, my case is now resolved, and ultimately, after being convicted and overturning it and dealing with it for 6 years, they finally gave up, and the prosecutor actually dropped the case after 6 years. But and now it's been 5 years since then, so the federal statute is over. The feds can't even come in on me for that case anyways. So I'm kind of like, like you say, leaving well enough alone. But I would definitely like to get that copy of that order again, because, again, it stated clearly that I was in the right, that the court found I was fully compliant of all California laws.
Okay, there's two ways you could do it. You could either get an attorney or somebody that has a PACER account. Go right to the court's website. Go to your docket for that case.
Okay.
Look through the docket, and when you find that paper, just download it and print it out.
Sure.
Or you can go into the courthouse yourself, or someone walk in there and say, "I want a copy of this," and have them pull it up on their computer and send it to the printer and hand it to you.
Perfect. Yeah, I've got the date that it happened, so it shouldn't be that hard to get a hold of. Email me, and I got a PACER account. I can get on there and find them. Excellent. I got state court stuff, though. I got all the Fed courts. Oh, yeah, I got that state court, yeah. Well, Paul, I very much look forward to working with you as you are experiencing your freedom and you're getting out there, continuing to battle. George Martorano is waiting online right now. And he did 32 years in federal prison, and he's out there helping folks. He's a great advocate and a lifetime member of our organization as well. And just doing the right thing, trying to keep going after it all. So I'm pleased and proud that you've made those decisions, and I certainly would love to help as you're experiencing your freedom. I'm loving it. I've been working at the Michigan Humane Society and for the Unitarian Church. Awesome. That keeps me busy and gets me out of the halfway house every day of the week, 7 days a week. I had to get out of there. That place is horrible. That's one of the worst places I've ever heard of. Anyway, that's behind me now. Well, I look forward to talking to you more after Friday. And we do this show every Wednesday, and you're absolutely welcome to call in anytime. And anything that we can do as an organization to help out anything you're doing, let us know. And we'll keep you in the loop as we're developing the plan for the Walk Across America. It's going to begin in June 2020. and we'll be marching. So awesome. All right, Paul. Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
All right, thank you.
All right, Paul Free, folks.
Wonderful, thank you.
You bet. A day and a half away from being free altogether. All right. Becca, if you're still on the line, we've got a couple of more calls to screen, but I recognize this one. This is George Martorano, so I'm going to jump right to him. And we got all kinds of calls. This is the home of the 2-hour, 1-hour show. I keep trying to have a 1-hour show, but it keeps saying no. So we got a lot of people that want to talk. We got Jeff Eichen on the line. We got Glenn Keeling on the line, Pete Yapel on the line. We got Dana Bland. We got Mike and Sarah and Zachariah. That's just the ones I know about. So let's get over here. We got George Martorano. Once again, I know by the phone number who I'm talking to, my brother from another mother. George Martorano, welcome to the show. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Joe. How's my West Coast family? How's everybody?
Doing great. We just got off the phone with Paul Free, who just is a day and a half away from getting off paper.
Woo!
Oh, good. There's so many of us still suffering. Incidentally, I'm in New York City. I've been interacting in New York City doing all the popular podcasts because I'll be doing a podcast down at my place in November in Philadelphia. So, a smart guy tried to learn all he could, like your show, Joe. It went from obscurity to reaches out to many people. It's such a blessing. Anyway, I want to talk tonight, ladies and gentlemen, about the second chance. I'm happy to announce that there was a friend of mine, Bobby, that he was in jail for murder, and he did a lot of years, and he was exonerated, and he's doing so much in the Philadelphia community, Bobby, that we're actually thinking about running him in politics, because what's going on in politics today with these individuals, and I'm not saying he or she are bad people, but they're not getting it. And so us people that have been incarcerated for whatever and have been exonerated, and the prison programming has showed that extraordinary, that they really had made their metamorphosis. So that's what I'm trying to develop, is people, the second chances from some serious cases. The second chance, I mean, you can have your second chance from some minor cases of situation like that, which doesn't make them bad people. But I want to give the second chance to these people that had severe cases, because it seems to me that they're saying all the right things, they're doing all the right things. So, Joe, we have to look at the serious nature from the people that are coming out of prison in a serious nature.
Well, George,
they're the ones, they're leaders in the community with the second chance, Joe.
George, I just met up with a woman a couple of weeks ago who has a reentry program nonprofit, and we've agreed to work together. And she does work on expungement and also reentry. As you know, we've been talking about coming up with a reentry program, and we have our Kansas chapter has an idea on a state level for bringing in businesses to sponsor inmates that are either coming up for parole or probation, and giving them more or less sponsoring them as giving them a place to work and housing and whatnot as a head start that would be in somewhat subsidized. And so we're tax breaks or whatnot. And so we're coalescing this right now, and I would certainly love to be involved in anything that you have that's involved with the reentry project. And it's not just about the plant prisoners; it's about the criminal justice system and how broken it is. And it is absolutely about nonviolent plant prisoners and any nonviolent offense, but it's about a second chance.
Totally, but I want to focus on these severe cases that come home. Guys that got a break from one of the individuals I've been working with, Bobby. He was a juvenile. Put on a case that had nothing to do with but he was away, so he was almost 30 years as a juvenile. Pennsylvania has the worst laws for juvenile with murder cases. So these are the people that I'm trying to get American interested in. Just because it is a severe case doesn't mean this individual doesn't need a second chance. He's doing all the people that like my case, ladies and gentlemen, was a severe case. I had life, no parole. So I believe these people make a big statement when they're coming home and they want to do the right thing. These severe cases. So that's my message tonight. When you come out of hell, I mean, it doesn't make a difference how much money you have on them. It's you shake it off and you do good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, George. It has to do with the redemption. We're human beings, and we all fall short. We all do stupid things in our lives, and sometimes we pay a price that's what we deserve, and sometimes we pay a price that's more than we deserve. Sometimes we get away with it, but frankly, the thing is when somebody makes a choice that they want to turn their life around and do good, that's the thing about a human being is we have that ability. And I think that there's not enough of a system that allows for that. You get stuck in the system and there's no way out. And I think that that's what we're talking about here is nurturing, developing, creating a system that will give that.
Tonight, gentlemen, on the show, a second chance applies to everyone, even if it's a severe situation that you're coming out of prison.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, George. I appreciate your good words, and certainly we agree with that, a second chance.
I'll be seeing you in November. Make sure you got my book ready.
Oh, you betcha. We got your cot ready anytime you come by. All right. Thank you, George.
Bye, George.
Thank you.
George Martirano, folks.
What do you say? Oh.
He just dropped off. All right. So now I've got Becca is going to come on live, and I got our Vice President of the Human Solution, Lisa Wildridge, and she's going to have a little discussion with Becca about the walk and how it's going to work and how things happen. And, that's how it is. Here it is, Lisa Wildridge for a few minutes.
Hey, guys. Hey, Becca, are you there? Becca. Okay, give Becca a second. She'll be here in just a second. So I was kind of wondering myself, because I've never done the walk before, how you do it. And Becca she's actually done a walk before. She walked across America in support of Native American rights, Indian rights. So she's done it. She knows what's involved. Because I was kind of curious, how do you do something like that? If we're over here and people are walking, what do we all walk at once? How do the people eat? So Becca really informed me quite a bit as to how it went on. Becca, where are you? So I can't hear.
Just click on her.
Oh, click on her. Okay. She's right there. Yay! There you are, Becca! Go ahead, Becca. Go ahead. It's your turn. You tell them how this thing is done. Let me ask you a question. How do the people eat when they're on the walk?
They usually eat. When we were on the walk that I was on, we had a base staple of rice, beans, dried foods like that, and we had a cook. His name was Nacho. He took charge of the cooking because he couldn't walk, and he would go ahead with a group of people and prepare all the food. So when the walkers were done walking, there was dinner or breakfast or lunch or whatever.
And
kind of a group event.
How do you? And then what did you say about like that people don't have to carry like their backpacks and their tents and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely not. We had a caravan. A lot of times it went in the truck. Everybody's gear, anything that they had, so nobody had to carry anything while they were walking, because walking's enough without having to carry all your gear. Okay,
and then I'll ask one more question, then you can kind of explain everything. Sorry, I forgot to push the button. How about? Let me see. What was another question? I don't know.
I can answer one more question, then I got to finish screening because the calls are stacking up.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so basically, If somebody wants to walk even just a half a mile, they can walk a half mile. If they just want to hand out water bottles, they can do that. And then if somebody wants to do like glamping, they're welcome to do glamping, but this is a bare bones thing on the Human Solutions end. We're not like, we don't have an $80,000 or $180,000 Provost bus. We're talking like a chuck wagon that has beans and rice, like Becca said. We're talking about...
that's what we did for 3 months. And we slept on the ground. We slept in parks. We slept in buildings so people would let us sleep in their buildings. We slept on a couple reservations.
Amazing.
I got rid of my tent, everything. I just used a sleeping bag and I'd roll up in a tarp if it was raining.
Yes.
That was neat.
Yes. Yes. And you walked all the way from where to where?
I joined them at Colorado and I walked all the way to DC.
See that,
Colorado,
folks?
I started in a blizzard.
She can do it.
Colorado ended in 100+ degree temperatures in DC.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. So,
Went through a lot of shoes too.
okay. So
Lost a lot of weight.
we're taking shoe donations apparently. So if somebody wanted to donate, how would they donate? Because obviously we're going to need money for food, right? Money for gas, for the chuck wagon, for the support vehicle. So how do people donate?
I believe that the donation is set up on our website, walk4change.us. You can go there and click on the donate button and make a donation.
And then if somebody wants to join us, what do they do?
I would go there as well. There should be a contact sheet on there. If there's not a contact sheet on there, go to thsintl.org and fill out a contact form there and let us know you want to know about the walk.
Yay! All right, we got to let Becca go, but she has a lot of answers for this. She did it. How far did you walk again, Becca?
I personally walked almost 2,000 miles, I think. I walked some days 30 miles an hour. 30 miles a day, but I was young. I was 21 at the time.
That's incredible.
So I was a hardcore walker.
That's a lot of
One of the
strength.
main walkers. Yeah.
So all people are welcome, even if you can't walk, you're not super strong like Becca. Even if you're in a wheelchair, it's okay. Somebody will push you.
There's so many things that need to be done. Yeah, exactly. And you can wheel. You don't have to walk. You can wheel, skateboard, ride your bike, hand out water, help in the kitchen. There's so many things that can be done. There's always a place for everyone.
Okay. It sounds like a great plan. And I appreciate you letting me know, because I was like, how one person here and one person's there. What's this person supposed to do? But it just makes sense. And you get picked up as we go along. And if you can walk for a little bit, great. If you can't, stay where you're at. You've said hi while you're there. Wear a ribbon, join the Human Solution. So do you have anything else to add, Becca?
No, but I'll call in again next week and hopefully have more time.
Yay!
The show won't be so busy with callers.
Okay.
I can talk more about it. I got a lot more to say.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Becca. We appreciate you, and thank you for screening. So that's it, guys. So we're going to do a walk across America. We want to end cannabis prohibition, and we want to release all nonviolent cannabis prisoners. So with that being said, here's our fearless leader. Mr. Joe Grumbine is back. Yay!
All right. Awesome. Becca, so you got them all straightened out?
Yeah, she does.
Okay. Back to screening. Good. Excellent. Well, looks like we got a whole bunch of more people on the line. Excuse me. So let's see. Let's just start marching through. I think I've done all my yapping. Let's start with Pete Yapel. See what Pete's got to say. Pete is got a traveling chapter, Solidarity Over Separation, and he is banging away. So, Pete, how's it going today?
It's going good, Joe. We're actually in North Carolina today. We had an unfortunate situation happen the night before last. We got a phone call 4:30 in the morning, and Helen's oldest brother is not good at all. He's in the hospital. He had a major heart attack, and it doesn't really look very promising that it's going to be good in any way. But so we're here handling that at the moment. But getting ready to go to Missouri, obviously, on the 19th, so that we can kick off this pre-rally for the walk. And we're excited about that. So crazily excited about it. Why we're out here and why we're doing what we're doing.
Well, it's going to be good. And I come to find out just last night, that I'm going to have an opportunity. It looks like I'm going to Missouri. I was going there just for a day, but it turns out that it looks like I'm going to have an opportunity to speak in front of the Kansas state legislature about the proposed bill, or the bill that's been submitted. And I got an audience amongst just a few people, and Mike and Sarah are going to explain that a little deeper, but it looks like I'm going to be sticking around for a couple of extra days. So that's exciting stuff in the heartland of the good old US of A. So it's exciting to watch opportunities happen. And, the lesson here is that when people get out there and they work, they show up, treat this like a job, treat this like it's important. Don't just sit on your computers and clack and be angry and whine and complain about what's not right, but actually get out there and put forth an actual effort. It makes a difference. And it doesn't take a million of us, but hell, if we had a million of us, we could get anything we want. Let me say that again, folks. Let me say that again. If we had a million of us, we could get anything we want. Mm-hmm. How many millions of us are here in the United States? 350 million? Mm-hmm. What if we just had one 350th of the population of the United States got together and said, this is what we want? We would have it. We would have it. So anyways.
Absolutely, without question, without question. It just takes people to finally, and we say it all the time, like, get up. And like people heard tonight, you don't have to walk. You can hand out a water bottle. You can, if you have a special talent that you can draw, make signs for people. You know what I mean? There's lots of things that people can do in support of the walk and to show their support of the walk as it goes through.
It's going to happen organically. Mark my word, it's already happening.
Well, and that's it. We're here to inspire it to happen faster and better. And I'm all about organically, and I'm also all about doing things with intent and purpose and causing them to happen. And that's, it's a combination of all those things that's happening here and now. And, it's like you say, it is happening. We've had conversations with one after another previous inmates, people that, that one Thanksgiving, it was the Thanksgiving after I got out of custody. And when I got more, decided that it was important to really spend a lot of effort on these POWs. And we had a Thanksgiving where we had a bunch of our Human Solution family together, and I had contacted, at the time I was in contact with, I don't know, maybe 20 different POWs. And most of them have since been released. Many of them, anyways, not all of them, but certainly many of them. And at the time, I had sent them an invitation to call and share Thanksgiving with us. And, they all got their 15 minutes. And it began at probably around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and went on until, I don't know, in the evening. And we scheduled all these calls, and we put them on speakerphone, and everybody get a chance to say something. And it made a difference, and it inspired some folks who used to be engaged with us to go out there and help the POWs. And people come and go, but if something makes a difference, it makes a difference. And that's one of those things that did. And Paul remembered that from, like you say, 6-7 years ago, that one simple action makes a difference. So, when one person decides to do something and set something in motion and bring people together to participate, it makes a difference. And that's why I keep doing this show. I keep saying, can one more person come and help? Can one more person come and help? And actually help, not just say I'm going to help, but actually help. We need that part of it. I get tons of them that say they're going to help. If I had a stack of all the people that raise their hand and says, I'm there for you, and didn't show up, I'd have a stack that went halfway to the moon. But, you guys are doing it, walking the walk, driving the drive, and that's what we need. We need more, and you guys are part of the solution to make that happen.
That's all we can try to be every day, man, without question. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other and marching forward instead of standing still and just yelling.
Yippee. We
That's what
are
we're
the
changing.
traveling chapter.
Well, tell me, traveling chapter, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, being that you're a moving target now, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they get a hold of us through Solidarity Over Separation at gmail.com, or they can get a hold of us at the website, which is www.cannawetalk420.com, or just go to the walk and join and participate and donate.
And that is www.walk4change.us. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. Well, it's always a pleasure and a treat to spend time with you guys, and we'll be seeing you in person in about a week from now. So, we're
Close. It's closer than I know. It's getting here. Always good seeing you, Joe. We'll see you guys in Missouri, man.
look forward to it. All right, Pete. What's that?
Will Liz be joining you?
Not this time. She's had her fill of traveling for a little while. So I think, well, anyways, she needs to spend a little time home for a minute. So she's got to manage the homestead. We're gonna keep the business running while I'm out. So I need her to be here. So, all right, you guys, always a pleasure, and we're gonna keep on marching. Cup of Joe, home of the 2-hour, 1-hour show. If you want to call in and join, pick up the phone and dial 646-929-2495. We got a bunch of callers, and my pledge is that we'll always get to all of you. Sometimes I got to prod things along because we're getting a little too far ahead of ourselves, but we're okay for this 2-hour, 1-hour show. Jeff Eichen was poking me, needs to come on, so we're going to bring him. And then we'll go to Glenn, and we'll keep on going from there. Jeff Eichen with the Lifers movie and advocating for Michael Thompson and all the other POWs from Washington and all over the United States. Welcome to the show, Jeff Eichen.
Yay!
What's happening, everybody? Happy parade.
Woohoo! So what's happening?
You got any questions for me? Shoot. Give them to me hard. Get them to me straight.
Well, you know what? I am trying to figure out what to do with Craig Cecil right now. And I've got some of our members that are really adamant about wanting to get a bunch of people out to Indiana and show up out there. And I would do that if I thought that it would make a real difference. But then you listen to Paul Free, and he's basically saying back off because you're going to cause more harm than you're going to do good. And it's a tough call because, you get moved to act in a certain way. And you think that if we do this, then that will happen. But that doesn't make it so. In the world of prison, it up is down and left is right and yellow is black and black is orange. And things don't have to make sense in a place like that. And they have ultimate power over the people that they're housing, and they can cause them their lives to be a little better or a lot worse, depending on their whim. And there's very little, if anything, that they have to be accountable for when all they have to do is clean up their paperwork a bit and say, well, this is why we did what we did, or we never saw that happen, or whatever. And so, part of what we're trying to do is come up with the best plan possible to help our friend Craig.
So is Craig in federal or in?
Yeah. He's been in federal for over 18 years, and as far as we know right now, he's in the solitary housing unit, and he's been a regular on the show for over 6 years. And he hasn't called in, and I think this is the 4th or 5th week now. And we have on good authority that he's in solitary.
I've been following the story, and my suggestion is not unlike what Paul Free said. Paul was a little bit rough because he's been in. I think our teacher might, in fact, be George Bontorano, because George was in solitary for 5 years. And when I asked George how much
daylight he got per day, and he said, how about 3 hours per week? So it is inhumane. It is effed up. It is bad news that all of this is happening right now in front of us. But we got a little bit of insight from Paul Free, no matter what his tone of voice was or if we thought it was a little bit harsh or not. But he did say, let's not rattle the cage and maybe he'll have to stay in further. But there's nothing wrong, I don't believe, with us calling in and asking, what is the method to get a JPay? The more that we call in and voice our opinion in a clean, quiet manner, not say, oh, I want to get my buddy out and what the hell is he doing in there? If we can go just call in and say, I have a prisoner, his number is blah, 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 and you can get that on Beth Curtis's site, liveforpod.com, and you can get his number. You can get his number right now, just find it and then tell everybody what his prison inmate number is. We can send him JPays, and I think that supporting him will help him get through that time. Again, George was in solitary lockdown for 5 years. That's effed up.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, I know that you've been advocating for Michael Thompson pretty strongly, and Dee Dee last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, last week our show was all messed up technically, but she gave us kind of an update. Has there been any updates since that time?
Well, I talked to Michael yesterday, and I'm getting ready to throw out on my site, which is lifersthemovie.com, and on my Facebook, which is Lifers the Movie Facebook, and Jeff Eichen, a shout out. Michael actually asked for me to tell everybody. Let's see if I can get this here. If I can get it to say something. Hang on, just a second here. I have a small. Let's see here. Turn the microphone off right now. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can. I recorded Michael. He called me yesterday and asked me to do a recording for you all. So let's see if I can pull it up here. I'm going to be doing some technology here, everybody. And Michael Thompson, wait for my spinning ball. But in the meantime, he sounds good. He sounds okay. He's been asking me to communicate with Mr. Tommy Chong's family and people, and to get Tommy to raise some cane, because I believe that some of our incredible advocates that are superstars, that are out there as Hollywood stars, can and they will be compassionate to us if they only knew, and if they knew more, because they reach millions, and so the more that we make more noise, before June for the walk, the more we will have the opportunity to get on TV, on national TV, like Bill Maher and things like that. So when I was in Canada, I talked about the walk. I met John Sally, and he's going to assist us in some, he'll do some spots for us and this and that. So it's really important for all of us to keep on that track of trying to get some people, like I'm looking at a sticker right now. It's Jinx Proof Genetics, and Jinx Proof is this guy, and I think he's got like 2 million. He's an influencer, and he's just online, and I see him at every show. I saw him at Champs in Vegas. I saw him at the Jack Herrera Cup, so on and so forth. But these are the people that we need to start to promote our choir and let them sing for them.
I agree. Absolutely. The more people that can help, the better. I get frustrated because there's all these people at all these events, and so few people actually doing anything to really help. So I kind of distance myself from most of those events for that reason. And I dig more into the grassroots, digging my feet in the trenches and trying to find one person to help. But I need and appreciate that you're out there, working the room, because all it takes is one of these influencers to get out there and reach their millions. And who knows, maybe that'll make a difference as well.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I try not to go under because I have so much invested in my movie project by myself, and I have so much invested in time and that I really want to bring, well, number one, I would love to be supported and to be able to go to these places and everything like that. But number two, Drug Policy Alliance is coming up. They do every 2 years, and they're huge. But I have yet to really see them initially go ballistic, and really make a difference. This week, the gay marriage people, went back into the Supreme Court to get gay rights for the workplace. And that was yesterday or the day before. I haven't heard or looked up their success, but I want to team up with them because they went all the way to the Supreme Court. What we need is to re-legalize marijuana, then everybody comes home without a record.
There you go. Excellent. Were you able to get that recording? I hate to poke the spurs at you, but we got to keep moving. I got a bunch of guests and a little bit of time.
Let me just give you a little bit of this recording here. Let's see here. I've got the. I want everybody to know. Well, I want to thank you so much for thanking all of us. These are moments that we live for, Michael. We live for the camaraderie. That means the friendship that we can pull together. And as humans, it's the best we can do is to be rewarded like a dog wagging his tail when he gets a biscuit. So by you thanking us and me, that's my biscuit. So I really appreciate you, man, and we're doing the best we can, and I'm glad to be part of the solution, and we're going to get you out before June, because in June, we're walking from California to the White House for reform on Walk for Change. Yeah, we're walking for change, dude. It's already started. Joe's helping, Joe Grumbine, the Human Solution, and Peter is helping to spearhead this, and we're going to, in June 2020, we're starting to walk.
Yes, and just like I said before, we all come a long way together. We all come a long way, and I'm really going to happen. It's going to happen. And I really feel it's going to happen soon.
Well, I'll pass the word on. I'll get this out. Everybody, give me a hand pan parade. 1, 2, 3, Michael. Hand pan parade. Yeah, baby. So there you go. That's our Michael.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, I appreciate, as always, you coming on the show and all the good work you're doing. And I look forward to the day when you get the support you need to be able to travel around. It's funny. People don't realize that activists generally carry their own weight on their back. And, every once in a while you see somebody that gets sponsored, but for the most part, we all do our own heavy lifting, and I'm no different. It is what it is. We do what we got to do. And, hopefully the world will change, and all these people that are benefiting from these so-called legalizations, maybe they want to help out a little bit too, instead of just shoring up their own positions, as I see so often. But it's time. That's what we're doing. We're making real change. We're bringing freedom and liberty and civil rights and human rights to everybody, because that's the whole idea. Everybody. All right, Jeff. Well, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
LifePersonMovie.com, everybody, and my My Facebook is Lifers the Movie, and also Jeff Eichen, EICHEN. And don't forget, everybody, Paper Fiber, Fuel, and Medicine. Jack Barrera, we're going to make your dream come true and bring all the prisoners home. And thank you so much for assisting with the walk and making that happen. Maybe we won't need the walk. Maybe it'll happen before that. But in the meantime, everybody keep on walking.
You got it. Jeff Eichen, folks, Lifers the Movie, advocate extraordinaire. We'll talk to you next week, and we'll see you then. All right, now we're going to kick it into high gear. We got so much to say still, so I don't want to ever rush anybody, but there's sort of that balance between rushing and being effective and efficient with the time that we have left as I'm rambling along. So we got Glenn Keeling. Glenn is the chapter coordinator for the Creative Care Beacon chapter out of Ohio. And Glenn is also fighting a case as he is helping others fight their cases, and just a true warrior spirit, one of the true elements of the human solution. I wish we had more people like Glenn and his wife Peggy willing to get out there and fight. And maybe we will one by one. Glenn, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good, Joe. Thank you again for having me on again.
Always my pleasure.
Listen, we've got that. We're coming up on 2 years here at the end of the month on this, and they have scheduled us for a pre-trial on October 31st at 1 p.m. I don't know what's going to happen then, or we'll just have to cross our fingers and hope something. We do have to appear. We're asking anybody that can hear my voice or that's willing to come to Kieran, Ohio. Man, we need a lot of people to show up for this pre-trial, because it is, like I said, 2 years going through this case is long enough for what the case actually is. We definitely need to support to show the prosecutor that, look, this is long enough, give in, walk on. Again, my name is Glenn Keeling. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time. There's a lot of people, I'm sure. Listen, I am the the chapter coordinator, chapter leader of the Ohio chapter of the Human Solution. We're the Creative Care Beacon. We can find us on the internet there, Facebook, or you can give me a call at 419-863-0498.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Glenn. I hope you and Peggy are both doing all right tonight. And, folks, you got to understand, part of what we do is getting out there in court. And when you can, man, I tell you what, I've been on both sides of that experience. I've been out and helped dozens and dozens, maybe 100 people. I don't know how many people it's been all over the country. And when it comes down to a jury getting picked, that's when, I'll mobilize whatever I need to, even if I got to go across the country to do it. But the truth is, our local support is where the strength is. And if we can get 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 people out to that courtroom, it will make a difference. If you're anywhere near Ohio at this next court date, please find your way to come out there and just be there for Glenn and Peggy. I tell you what, you will find the hidden gem that is volunteering and helping out somebody else who's in need. There's a selfish gain that you get from that I can't even describe. So just all I can say is get out there, get a hold of Glenn if you can, and let's show the support we need. Glenn, thank you so much for being here. And we'll talk tomorrow. What do you say?
Yes, sir. I'm going to definitely try to be in a place where I can call in. Yes, I'm going to.
Awesome.
It is a rewarding to go and support other cases. Peggy and I have been doing it for a long time, but we've been really hitting it hard here since we've been going through our case. It's not easy going through a case, and we definitely need a lot of people to support anyone going through a cannabis case. If you can't make it to our court case, please find someone around you and go and support them. Write a letter for somebody that's in your state. Craig Cecil needs some letters. Make some phone calls. I wouldn't say, so much as going and standing outside of the prison or nothing, but I would definitely call and ask about his well-being. Continue to call and ask about his well-being. That's the big thing. That I think that we could support him by doing that. Just calling the prison and asking about his well-being.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is how we do it when we show up. And if we're being disruptive and problematic, then we get perceived as a problem. If we show up as citizens that are genuinely concerned and are valuable citizens, we become part of the solution. So a lot of it is what we do, and a lot of it is how we do it. And I think it's just important to remember those things. I see a lot of people with good intention, but maybe a little too much anger or a little not enough thoughtfulness. And I watch people sometimes overdo or underdo or outdo and sometimes undo the good they're trying to do. And a little thought, a little plan, a little effort in being effective can go a long way. So just think about what you're doing and how other people might take it. And I know that, as freedom fighters, generally, we don't give a damn what other people think. But in this case, it matters what other people think because we're trying to change what people think. And it'll only change what people think if they take you serious and if they look at you as somebody who they value their opinion. And we have to present ourselves that way. So appreciate everything, Glenn and Peggy, and, appreciate the value that your chapter brings. And we'll keep on marching with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys have a great evening.
Awesome. All right. Let's see. We got Zachariah. We got Dina. We got Mike and Sarah. I think we're going to bring up Zachariah next. He had a hearing, I believe, last week, and I haven't heard anything about what happened. And then we're going to go to Mike and Sarah because I so much want to talk about what's going on out in Kansas. And then we got Dana because we got this big old rally coming up in Missouri. And then we got Bob, and he had a case up in Oregon, and always stuff happening. Oregon, where everything's so cool and legal. Yep. Here we go. And then we got Bobby, and, I think I'll probably have just enough time for everybody. So let's begin with Zachariah, and let's see what's going on. Zachariah, welcome to the show. How are you doing today? Hello? Sometimes people call in.
How you doing?
There he is.
Thought it was a potty break.
How's it going today?
Pretty good. I had my court case last week, and Dana came up and went to court with me to see what I go through, witness firsthand.
Right.
Hey, Dana.
Was told by my public pretender that he's going to be leaving, and I'll be having a new one here shortly. So they basically just got my U8 down to one a week. He said hopefully next month when I go back in front of the judge that I can get them completely taken off because, I haven't had any dirty ones. And just going from there, it's just basically still no discovery, no letter of intent. The prosecutor pretty much laughed at the case because it was just for marijuana. And I'm hoping everything goes good and I can get this all dismissed.
Yeah, no kidding. So you don't have a word yet from your new public pretender?
No. I called my old one to find out when the new one. They said that they'll be handing out the new cases to the different pretenders on the 23rd. So
got it.
I'm on them like white on rice, man. Trying to find out what's going on.
Well, you're gonna be out at. You're gonna be out at the rally next Friday. Are you gonna be out at the rally next Saturday? Awesome. Well, then I'll get to meet you in person. I'll be out there as well.
Yep, I'm headed down there.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and getting everybody together, and sharing our stories and sharing our enthusiasm, and really putting some humanity to it. It's rough sometimes. We deal with organizing volunteers all across the country, and we do it electronically. And even here with the voice, listening to each other's voice, there's a degree of separation that we just can't break through without being in the same room together. And I know the difference when you get to be there with somebody. There's a connection that's so much different. That's why I'm going out there, because it's important. It's important to to tie these binds together and to get to know each other a bit. And, you know, when you're supporting somebody that you've met in person, it's different than somebody you sort of kind of know because of Facebook or the internet or even a phone call. So I appreciate you standing up and fighting. That's most important. Likewise. All right. Well, next week we'll do this again, and I appreciate you checking in and letting us know what's happening. For anybody who's never been through a court case,
no problem.
Most of the time you deal with showing up for nothing. You show up and something stupid happens, and you got to take your day off and go to court, and they're just going to work. And one time after another, I think I went to court over 200 times before they finally dismissed my case. 200 times over 6 years, and that was all on the taxpayer's dime, and they took my time from me, and I'll never get it back. So I use that to fuel myself with a little bit of frustration and anger as I'm working towards this goal of freedom and liberty. So I'm glad to have you with me, and we'll keep on going.
Yeah, thank you for letting me call in, and thanks for your show. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. All right, folks, let's see where we got. We got Mike and Sarah now, and Mike and Sarah are heading up our Kansas chapter, and these guys have done amazing work in a short period of time. It's been, I tell, coming up on a year maybe, or maybe right around a year. And I have watched these guys go and support cases all over in Kansas and in Missouri, and then we, you know, they've been helping out with the legislation battle, and they've got this plan which I wholeheartedly support, which is about a reentry program. And they've also created and got a bill submitted that it basically mirrors the Oklahoma bill. And we've been working hard. I told them, I said, if you can get me an audience with the legislature, I will come out there. And I got the call yesterday, says, I think we got it. So let's hear it from these guys in person, and let's see what's going on. Mike and Sarah, it is always my pleasure. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, Joe. Good to hear. Good to talk to you. Yeah, I guess you're going to be taking home a puppy, huh?
Yeah, another Chihuahua for my lovely wife. I promised her if I ever have to go to...
That was my whole goal.
I told her if I ever have to go to Kansas again, she'll get another Chihuahua. Well, and I told you guys, if you get me an audience with the legislature, I'll come out to Kansas. So you did your part, and I'm going to do my part.
The dogs are barking.
And the dogs are barking. I think the word got out. A new Chihuahua's coming in, and the whole pack's starting to howl.
Goodbye.
Absolutely. So
yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll have a lot more information. I'm meeting with somebody tomorrow at lunch to sit down and talk about it, to make sure all of our I's are dotted and T's crossed, because it's going to be we're being selected to be able to be in front of these legislators. They're not just letting anybody in. So it's kind of a good deal.
it's a great deal. It's an opportunity that, you know, it didn't just happen by accident. You guys have been diligently networking and meeting with people that have influence and presenting something with thought and with purpose and well written and well planned. And you guys present yourself well. I've watched you guys, the way you show up, the way you carry yourselves, the way you speak. And you know, that's what's important. It's not so much about, you know, just being ourselves and doing what we want to do. It's about being soldiers. It's about doing what we need to do to get done what we need to get done. And, you know, you're not going to force your way into a state legislature. You're going to hopefully, you know, encourage somebody to find you important and interesting and give you an opportunity to present your case. And that's what we've got now, an opportunity to present our case. So I am so looking forward to strategizing and laying this out and preparing. That's what's going to be all about, is preparing our presentation so that, you know, we can speak off the cuff and we'll have an opportunity to do that. But to lay out bullet points and to lay out our points in a well thought out, not overly rambling way is going to be important. And we're going to demonstrate how that's done.
Yeah, we're super excited about it. The Jennifer Hess House 2 is finished. We have to
Well, I am so excited. So for anybody who's listening now, every week we get new listeners and people from all over the place that I get the same questions. What is this show about? Well, this show's about people making a difference in the world. And one of the differences that happened, Jennifer Hess came to our attention through some of our members and some supporters about a woman who has a pot case. And not only does she have a pot case, but she had a husband who died in custody because he was denied medicine that would have saved his life, and also had her kids taken from her as a result of this case. And one of the things that they said was, well, you can't have your kids because your house isn't fancy enough. And so what we did is Jennifer had done a fundraiser and raised up some money, and we did a fundraiser and raised up some money. And Mike and Sarah, as coordinators of our chapter, came up with a contractor who was willing to come out there, and we brought enough manpower and got the materials, and they actually spent 2 weekends out there working on this woman's house.
That's reality.
Fixing it up, getting it ready so that ultimately Jennifer can get her kids back in her own custody. And that's what this is all about, folks. That's what the human solution is all about, is doing what it takes to make a difference out there. And sometimes it means showing up at court. Sometimes it means just picking up the phone and listening when somebody is lost and doesn't know what they're doing. Sometimes it's giving a little advice, going, hey, you know what, I've been where you are. Maybe we can help. Sometimes it's picking up and making a sign and getting out there and marching and rallying and chanting. And sometimes it's picking up a drywall trowel and fixing up a wall. Every one of those things are part of the human solution, and it's all what we're about. Sometimes it's writing a letter to a prisoner, being there for them. We need your help, folks. We need more people to be engaged with this. Unfortunately, I know all of the people that are helping out with the human solution. I know you all personally. I would love to have 100 of you that I never met before, that I don't know, that I've never talked to. And that's what we need. We need more people to step up and say, hey, you know what? I'll help. I want to do a little bit more. What can I do? And I tell you what, I'll give you something to do. I'll put you in touch with somebody who has something to do. And that's what we're looking for right now. You guys have been an inspiration to me. Sometimes I get out there and I'm like, geez, there's me and 5 people helping out. And then I watch you guys out there in the middle of the country just soldiering on every day. And you bring out the best in me. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate it. I mean, we work pretty hard. I mean, we're working realistically. We're trying to work with the people who make the decisions. They're the ones we're trying to educate. You know what I mean? We don't worry about educating the next door neighbor. I mean, we do. We educate everybody. Let me rephrase that. But we spend a lot of time working with people in power, you know what I mean? And helping them to understand, you know what I mean? That, we can't be sending people to jail for something that right next door the people are millionaires for. You know what I mean? That's retarded. That don't even make sense.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And the most frustrating part about this is people just don't get it. And you're right. If you're able to target people who just don't get it, we might as well target people who just don't get it, but can make a difference in other people. And I totally agree with what you're doing, and I support. Obviously, I'm willing to bring another Chihuahua into my house, and it's not like we don't already have 4 of them. So I'm bordering on the edge of being a crazy person. This will make 7 dogs, just so y'all might know. So listen, anybody who wants to get involved in the Kansas chapter and the work that you're doing on any level, and they want to come and help out, how do they get a hold of you guys?
I'm pretty sure we're on the HumanSolutionInternational.org page.
Yep.
And the Kansas chapter on
And the Kansas chapter on Facebook. We're pretty much right underneath you somewhere.
All right. Awesome. And you're absolutely correct. Well, once again, folks, this is evidence that a few people can make a gigantic difference. And Mike and Sarah in the Kansas chapter exemplify that every single day. Well, thank you guys for being here. And I look forward. It's going to be about a week and a day or 2 that I'll be out there seeing you guys in person.
Yep. Yeah, guys, have a good night. Thanks, guys.
All righty. You too. All right. Let's see. We got Dana Bland up next. Now, Dana is, he didn't actually say he wanted to talk, but I know he generally does. And he's the one that is hosting this first rally for the Walk for Change. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 chapters getting together, and in addition to defendants and other activists. And people that just care about what the heck we're doing. We're going to get together and we're going to rally, and we're going to motivate each other. We're going to educate each other. We're going to support each other and show what the human solution is all about. Dana Bland with the Hope for Change and the End of Prohibition chapter in Missouri. How are you doing today?
Oh, we're doing okay. Yeah, there's been a lot going on with like what's happening over there in Kansas. There's another case for her coming up in November. I don't know the exact date. Just look for it and you'll see it. But we want to get as many people or as more than what we had the last time, and we're making a difference there. Their chapters there in Kansas are really, really stepping up, and I've seen them coming from all around. So people are waking up, and what people really need to know is this thing, the Walk for Change Freedom Rally down here, there in Butterfield, Missouri, it's for everyone. And if there's someone that's looking, this needing some healing in their body, just bring them. And or they just want to learn what we're about and why we stand for definitely the medical side and everything else about the cannabis plant and to free it. I believe there's going to be a lot of people there because there's going to be a lot of well-known people there. So, and as far as I know, we're going to have a doctor there talking to.
Excellent. Right on.
So, he's Hannaham, and he's real good. I met him right after all this stuff happened, and between him and Rourke, and when they did the Amendment 2, got it going. That's why I started really getting into activism. And if you want to take and receive people, just take and know this: to receive is to give. If you just get out there and give to help others, no matter, there's lots of ways of doing that. Just be there with your presence, they can help us out, and let's get all one voice, because this country, the government's screaming so loud, it's just going to drown us out. So we just got to get out there and scream louder.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And you're right. You just gave up the secret of activism. Is to give is to receive. And the more you give, the more you get. I couldn't agree with that more. I've always said I'm the most selfish guy in the world because I can't get enough of that stuff that you get when you give a little bit. And it just makes, it just brings you a fulfillment. You think about humanity and you think about the things that life is all about. And, as we get older, as we're all doing, you come to realize that mortality is a part of life. And when you start losing your friends and loved ones because, they lived out their lives, you start to bring what's important in life to the forefront, and being part of humanity and helping people and raising people up and supporting them and loving them and being loved by them. That's what this is all about. That's what this whole human experience is. And the more we can figure that out, the better we all are. So that's what this is about, folks, being part of the human solution and making the world a better place. Dana and Sue, how does somebody get a hold of you if they want to help out?
We're Hope for Change and the End of Prohibition, Human Solution, Missouri chapter. My number is 417-847-7974. And make your plans to get there to the 19th, because everybody's going to be there on this event. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be a really good time for everyone that can actually meet each other. And we got a pretty good radius of miles that people will come from. So let us know if you're coming, because it's not the biggest building in the world.
You bet. We'll do a special edition Cup of Joe live stream from the event, so everybody can be a part of it. That's one thing. We'll find a way to make that happen. Awesome. All right, Dina. Go ahead.
Okay. You can get on View next. You got a lot of them, but
Yeah, it's a very important thing to get involved because we all have to get involved together. Like I said, we have to be louder than what the noise that the government's making right now.
Couldn't agree more. You are a true warrior, and I appreciate you and Sue for everything you guys are doing. And you inspire me as well to get out there and keep on going. So we're doing this. We're making a difference. We're going to end this, and I feel like we're ramping up steam. We're gaining momentum. We're going to start pushing harder and harder until we get what we want. And what do we want? We want justice. And when do we want it? We want it now. And we want freedom, and we want liberty. And we're going to get it. We're going to march, and we're going to speak, and we're going to do what it takes to get it in, of course, a nonviolent, peaceful way. So be part of the civil unrest. Be part of the solution. We appreciate you guys. All right. Well, it'll be a week and a couple of days. I'll be seeing you in person, and otherwise we'll talk to you next week for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk to you then. Keep on going, doing what you're doing, because it's starting to work. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I will talk to you. Hopefully we'll talk to you tomorrow. Well, go tell them what did you need. I'm still on this show.
Oh, no.
I can't stop right now. We're still going. Anyways, let's see. We're getting close. I got 8 minutes left of this 2-hour, 1 hour show, and I got 2 more callers left, or 3 more callers. So we got 2 Bobbies and a Tom. Let's see what we can do. We got Bobby from Northern California first up. Bobby, how's it going? Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Okay, how are you, Joe?
Doing fantastic. Above ground breathing and currently out of custody.
That is wonderful. I wanted to relay that I've done some research now, and anybody with a case, if they ask for a fast and speedy trial, the whole judicial system will collapse. It's on the internet, and you can go to YouTube, Sixth Amendment rights, the right to a fast and speedy trial. What it comes down to is nobody wants to work. Not the people in the courts, not the attorneys, not anybody. Nobody wants to work. They expect everybody to make a plea. And I have recently discovered that 90% of the people in Oregon have had their rights violated. And there's a case law called Barker versus Wingo, which is a Sixth Amendment right to your fast and speedy trial. I guess the state of Oregon has made up their own constitution, which does not trump the United States Constitution. And so my advice to anybody out there going through a court case is you need to ask for a fast and speedy trial because your attorney probably won't. And if you do that, then nobody wants to work. So they're going to dismiss your case. And this is the next cop on YouTube telling you that if everybody in a court case asks for a fast and speedy trial, that the judicial system, it would just collapse. They would not have any more cases because they don't have enough judges, prosecutors to do it in the amount of time of a fast and speedy trial, which is a constitutional right.
Well, it's a funny thing. When people claim their rights, I watch it happen all the time. You got all these people with their admiralty law and their sovereign stuff, and they claim it. But, I watch them every time they come into court, and they say, well, you don't have jurisdiction over me because the flag has got a fringe on it. And the court says, well, that's too bad. You're locked up. You lose. And juries convict these people all the time. And every once in a while, one will find their way through it. The court doesn't know what to do. And then they mount this whole entire case based on that. Your right to a fast and speedy trial is there as long as the court gives it to you. And if you don't get it, then you have appellate courts and ultimately a Supreme Court to challenge it. Hopefully the rule of law means something, but frankly...
The Supreme Court has already challenged it. It's called the Wingo versus Barker. It's went to the United States Supreme Court.
Well, that's, again, as the deal is with the Supreme Court rulings, is when a judge says something to you and you say, well, this is what applies here, if that judge that's giving it to you doesn't agree with you and say, well, that doesn't apply because that was only for this in the narrow scope of things, then you still got to go through with it. That's the thing we all got to realize, and that's part of this. Is even if we're right, it doesn't necessarily matter. I was right, and they ran me through the court for 6 years, locked me up 4 times. I was right. In the end, I won. Yeah, so what? They took everything from me, and in the end, they got paid, and I lost everything. So that's what being right sometimes will do for you. It's why we need to keep fighting. It's why we need to keep getting out there together. It's why we need to continue on until we get the end goal, which is ending prohibition and opening up our own freedoms. Just being right isn't enough. It's not enough to have a law that says you're okay. You have to fight for that. We all have to fight for that. And until enough of us do this long enough, they're going to keep taking it from us and saying, yeah, that doesn't apply to you today. And hopefully, you find a place where they say, you're right. You do have rights, and this does apply to you. So that's ultimately my hope, is that happens, or we get enough people up where you're at to stand up and fight.
That's the only way we can do it. For some reason, these people think that they can outdo the United States Constitution, and I don't understand it.
Well, that's what we're here to do, is to educate, motivate, inspire, and remind everybody that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and that's the one thing that's everything else is supposed to be held up against. And when they violate it, which they do often, it's up to us to say, well, hold on now. And that's how did prohibition get to be? Oh, yeah, the same thing. They violated our constitutional rights, and we let them do it. So, we're here to keep fighting. We're here to keep going until we get it done. And that's all I can say. But Bobby, I got 3 minutes left and 2 people to get to.
One second, I have one more thing to say real quick, sir.
All right.
And it is, guess what? I can go buy 1 million kegs of beer and 1 million cases of cigarettes. Guess what? That's a drug that will kill you. And they'll tax me. Taxes and death. So that's the legal drug. It's not matters. They don't care. What I'm trying to say is they don't care they don't care what drugs you use. It's whose drugs you're using.
It's true. It's absolutely true. Well, I appreciate everything. I appreciate you coming aboard, and I appreciate you staying and fighting. And we will make this change. So we'll talk again next week.
And you too, sir. If there's any phone calls I can make, I'm very sick, but I'm able to make phone calls, do anything like that. Just let me know what I can do to help other people.
You got it.
I can do that as well.
All right.
I'm pretty good at emailing and stuff, but I can help other people.
I'll get you something to do. All right, folks. Well, Bobby was to speak or listen. So, Bobby, I'm sorry. Today you get to listen. We got Tom Corby with 1 minute and 53 seconds left. We got to make it quick. We're at the end of our 2-hour, 1-hour show. Tom Corby, welcome to the show. You got 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Thank you, Joe. 3 minutes.
1 minute.
Brevity.
1 minute, 45 seconds.
90 seconds.
Keep going.
All right. So, yeah, I'm here today with Frank and Ann and Darius as Ann, and I don't know what we would do without them. That's what friends are for. We're waiting for our electrician, Steve, coming in now to help get our power going with PG&E. There are lawsuits and injunctions coming with happening here. Steve, our electrician from Williams Electric here, Chico and Oroville, are really they're top notch and part of a lot of our friends, and they're going to hook our house up with a generator that goes directly into the house. We don't have extension cord. For those who are in Northern California, I really strongly recommend Williams Electric. They've helped me so much. Steve Wurtzing said, heard of the Human Solution International, how it helped a lady up north. You couldn't remember her name, helped her with her case. And that's what we do with the
10 seconds.
We advocate. and we help work the case like Frank and Ann here. And Bobby, Jared, Frank's best friend. Very good talk tonight. And I've been up with Bobby advocating for a couple weeks, and of course we make no deals. We take them to trial. If we go to trial, we'll try to make it up there, and we'll have to get you up here too, Joe. Yeah, Frank and Ann, I want to say a little something today about the Missouri and the Kansas chapters.
Shout out to the Missouri and the Kansas chapters.
You betcha. Well, we're gonna
rocking it, and I'm glad you're getting to go out there, Joe, because I don't have the time to go out there right now.
Well, that's it. We're get her done.
Yeah. Frank's got family connections there. He might be able to help out. Also have Daria Suzanne here today.
Nobody should go in prison or jail for a sacred plan.
Woo! You are right. You get the prize.
Yeah. How much time I got, Joe? I can go on for a couple hours.
You are officially out of time.
Oh, I'm out of time?
Yep, you're in overtime. Double extra overtime. I don't know when they're going to cut me off now.
Keep talking, Tom. Keep talking. So I actually have Bob Jared's text message that we've been working on, and that's what we do. He starts out, they told me, like you said earlier, can I pass a speedy trial if I'm incarcerated? There sounds like a violation to the Sixth Amendment. He contacted ADA and already have a case number with lawsuit. That's what we do. We throw the lawsuits at them. That's what they have ears to hear. But also going after them for civil rights. I can't believe the judge denied me a fast and speedy trial. I thought that was a right. I said, my call as well, the right to a 45-day time waiver for speedy trial is your right. Yet another clogging up their wheel. I really like this case. This is getting weird, Bobby said. The judge just told me I didn't have the right to fast and speedy trial. Trial on court record? I said, it's a dog and pony show, yeah. Even in the record, you'll have fun with that. Brother. Community forum, and he calls us, he asked me if Joseph Tully practices in Oregon. If this goes to trial, I would give 2-1 odds this is not going to trial. They don't want to take this to trial. Hopefully they'll drop discovery. Still isn't completed. They can't take you to trial until you have all your discovery. I'd like to see what this PD does or doesn't do, and if it goes to trial, I the best. I said I'm not sure, but yes, Tully team for the trial. Yeah, don't go that far. Just use and guide your PD, and if incompetent, recuse him. Can't take you to trial again until you have all your discovery. So, again, we always take them to trial. We make no deals, and that's how we get to the fat lady sings. Run out. I need to breathe. Don't forget to breathe, Tom. All right. Well, I want to thank you all today, Joe, Lisa, Mary, Becca, and all those on the front line, all the great speakers today. I remember, Joe, when we only had an hour show and it almost went down, and now glad we made it a 2-hour show thanks to all those coming to help join the Human Solution International and volunteering to be the solution to fight the end prohibition free all our POWs. I want to thank you all today. As Donna says, but don't forget to breathe.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and thank you so much, Tom Corby. coordinator for the NorCal chapter, the legendary NorCal chapter. And I want to thank everybody that made this show possible today and everybody who is thinking about and maybe making the decision to do a little bit more starting right now. We will see you all next week. I think next week what we're going to do is we're just going to move the show to Saturday instead of Wednesday, and we're going to do a special edition Saturday during the Freedom Rally for the Walk for Change. All right, we'll see you all next week.